this field for years, and who, through his vision, has been able to create a larger and more effective entity in New England to service those of you who are in this room and others who are not. And with that, to end the day, I'd like to bring up Fred McKinney.
Thank you, Richard. And I was actually thinking about Ted this week because he doesn't really exist except in my mind. And for those of you who don't know the full humor of it, my alter ego Ted likes to dress in purple jumpsuits and wear Afro wigs and attend events where he shouldn't be, like our annual dinner, which he attended a few years ago. But he's retired. He had to go into therapy and treatment, and he's the committee, my staff, the volunteers. Also want to recognize Carl Nurse and the work that he's doing very quietly in the back while we had these bright lights and cameras going. I thought that this was a type of event that needed to be recorded. Just if for no other reason, there are very few of these things that you will ever see on TV. And I'm not sure who we might be able to convince to show it as maybe public access. But I do think that, we mentioned the importance of the next generation of entrepreneurs and even the current generation of entrepreneurs and the information that has been presented here today. This is information that needs to go out to more people than are here in this room today. And so that's why when Carl and I talked about recording it, he was talking about taking, bits and pieces, and I said, no, let's record the whole thing. And we'll see what we'll do with it at some point, but if you guys have any bright ideas, I'd like to hear them. I also want to thank our gracious host, the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Their staff has just been incredible. From Marquise Benton, who couldn't be here, he is in the Office of Diversion and Inclusion. To Natalie Hills, who you've seen. Where's Natalie? Is she in the room? Natalie, stand up. Stand up. She's really done a wonderful job. And as Richard pointed out, I've worked with the Fed for a number of years on a number of things, and this really feels like home, a second home to me. And you guys be sure to get some of that shredded money when you leave. I'm trying to figure out how to put it all back together again. But
it doesn't come with any glue, though.
It doesn't come with glue. Again, I want us to talk about the importance of the topic that we've discussed here today. And I think it's been said by many of the presenters and panelists, this is great information. This is a great gathering. There's some great networking that's taking place. But we want this to have legs. We want to not only walk away having a good feeling, we want to take the information and the relationships to the next level. Because we're serious. This is not just an event. As you know, this was a free event. It was not a fundraiser. This is to share information, because our mission is to build minority businesses of capacity. Not just for, and, so this is, again, I think, very helpful to the council, very helpful to this region. And as you know, the president's going to be in Boston next week. So I think that, perhaps David can share with the president what took place here today, and also what needs to take place in the future to push the agenda of minority business development further. But again, what do we do now? And I liked my friend Ralph, who also I give special thanks to, from getting on a plane and coming from Chicago to be with us, and he's been here all day as well. And Ralph asked the same question, what do we do now? And there's several things that come to mind. We have to, as entrepreneurs and thought leaders and policymakers and financiers and others, we need to engage the capital markets. We need to get engaged. They need to know we're here. They need to know what we do. They need to know how we can help them and how they can help us. So that is important, and that's something that we can do. We need to get active to remove barriers. Barriers were talked about. And so we need to break down some of those barriers, whether they be within the corporate sector or whether they be because of bad law. And so we need to look at what those barriers are and break them down and have a rationale of why they are bad, not just for minority businesses, but just bad. There's bad policy, unfortunately, out there. So we've got to work with the regulatory and legal environment which hold minority businesses and other small businesses back. I think you also have to support organizations. And that was talked about. I mean, one of the common themes here is about relationships. And if you look at what we do, I mean, we don't make anything. You know, we really don't sell anything, but we bring people together. And there are other organizations out there that do similar things. And minority business owners need to be a part of a lot of organizations because it's the network that you are becoming plugged into when you join an organization. We also have to support each other's businesses. I think we heard that, you know, not only should be looking to sell something to somebody, you should be looking to buy something from someone. Because, you know, one of the things that we do, and it works, I'm going to tell you, I can testify from my own practice with the council and how we spend our money. I mean, I am frugal, Richard. I'm downright cheap. But when it comes to spending money, I do look at where those dollars are going. So for instance, we don't have a certified minority business that's a limo driver, that has a limo service in Boston. Doesn't make sense to me. But I called my friend Ron. I said, you know the president's coming next week, right? He said, yeah, I know the president. I heard about that. I said, well, this is the guy who comes before the president comes. So I want you to pick him up and take him. He called me, you know, after we made the deal. He called me back and like 3 hours later. He says, what's the flight number? I said, I gave him the flight number. He said, what's he look like? I told him that you look a little bit like Denzel Washington. No, I sent him your photo. So, you know, but this guy, he was excited. And now, they learn it. There are places to go that teach it. And the Tuck School of Business is a place that teaches it, as is Kellogg and Harvard and a number of other places. And the council, I mean, one of the great things about being in the council is we will pay for you to go to these places. All you have to be is certified and ask. So, I mean, to me, that's a great value. And so I'm glad that we have the relationship with Tuck, and quite frankly, what we're trying to do is expand that relationship because one of our long-term goals is that every certified minority business owner have an executive training experience. I mean, can you imagine? That would be a different group of business owners. That we can say that every minority business that's been in our council for 3 years or more has been the Tuck or Kellogg, or both. That's what our goal is. And the other thing that we have to do, and we must do now, is continue to build relationships. You know, when I was, as a trained economist, you know, in economics, graduate school, you learn a lot of formulas and so forth. There's nothing in there about really relationships. So we thought everything was the lowest price, you know, the best value. Those things are important, but relationships are also important. Because without those relationships, believe me, there's going to be somebody out there with a lower price. It's going to be a new gizmo. And so, but you've got to maintain those business relationships in order to grow your business. I want to also talk about business and the council. You know, I heard a lot about growth. And I just want to share with you some of our results, because our results from 2010 are now beginning to come in. We had, first of all, top line for the council, we had a 33% increase in revenues last year, which is a tough year. we had a 156% increase in our bottom line in 2010. Now, those of you, and I have board members here, and I want to introduce some of them a little bit later. But this is a nonprofit, right? But I'm a firm believer that we're running a business. And as a nonprofit organization, I firmly believe that we have to get big, we have to have financial scale in order for us to be relevant. Because if we're not relevant, we can't do things like this. And things like this are what help our minority businesses. And I learned from my friend Carlisle, who had to go back. He had a meeting in New York City this evening. I didn't know, he shared with me, I was looking at that, he's grown his business to $298 million since 2009. I think we got to raise our certification fee on him. And I remember when we had our first meeting, he told me what we were going to do in 2009. I mean, that's a phenomenal growth. But that's an example of what can happen. But it took strategy, it took some resources, and it took some vision. And finally, I'm not going to talk about the lottery that was mentioned earlier. I'm going to say the story there is not over, and I want to wait till we get a little more information. But I will just report that we're making great progress with that issue with the state of Connecticut and the Connecticut lottery. But finally, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for attending today. I know that, you know, the most valuable thing that you probably own is your time. And you could be doing anything right now. And I'm sure that there are a lot of calls and emails that are piling up on all of your devices. And sooner or later you're going to have to deal with them. But I am so appreciative that you saw the importance of this event, and I hope we didn't disappoint you. I know some of you have traveled a great distance. I'm looking at my friend Nelson, who came up from Florida. And I know that we had, I haven't met the person, but I know we have somebody that came in from Oakland. Is that person here? He may have left. But people came from around the country to be with us here today. And my good friend Bill, you know, he and I have had this discussion a number of times. Why don't we have 600 people here for something like this? And so I think we have work to do. And so I know that that's what keeps me going, is that we still have work to do. And again, I want you guys to drive safely. I guess we have to, they start printing the money right at 5 o'clock. And so if you're here at 5 o'clock, you get a sample. The hundreds, right, today, the hundreds today. You get a free sample of hundreds, a big stack. So be sure you get your stack of hundreds before you leave today, and drive home safely. And Richard, I'm going to have to introduce you to Ted soon, all right? Okay, thank you very much.